Fantasy Philosophers is brought to you by fantasy-info.com.
Miles Austin was a virtual unknown until he busted out big time against the Kansas City Chiefs when he had an opportunity to start because of injuries to starters. From that point on, Miles just broke out and had a great season. He became Tony Romo's number one receiver. He even made the Pro Bowl that season. All of a sudden, this guy is definitely a top 10 fantasy receiver, and I think the only thing we need to see now is, can he do it again? One problem that I do have is that the team has stacked on a little bit more talent in the passing game in Dez Bryant, and Bryant's having doing very well in OTAs, and I would not be surprised if he's starting right away because Roy Williams, while they're going to keep him, it's mainly because of financial reasons, because if they cut him, they'll have to pay him, I think, something like $10 million, and if they keep him, they have to pay him something like $10 million, so might as well keep him and get some type of production, or at least have him for depth. Right now, actually, it looks like he may not even be the number 3 receiver, as I had been writing about through the early part of the offseason. Kevin Ogletree, he was a guy that was projected to push Roy Williams for that starting job, and now it looks like he may end up being the slot receiver for the team. So Roy is really going to be in the back shed. I don't know if his career is ever going to be salvaged because really to me he doesn't have a dedication to the game. But as far as Miles Austin, he is the opposite side of the coin when it comes to that. He is a very hard worker. He's dedicated to getting better in the game. I think a great example that I once heard was about last offseason, I believe it was Michael Irvin that came into the camp last year, and he had Roy Williams and he had Miles Austin there, and he was just giving some suggestions and some tips on what you need to do, and Roy didn't want to hear anything of it, and Miles was just soaking it up. Now, understandably, Roy has established himself, by that point. Maybe he just didn't want to hear what another veteran was going to come in and tell him, although Michael is a Hall of Famer. But at the same time, Miles, he hadn't established himself, so maybe, you could make the case that he was more willing to soak it up because he's younger. But I still find that interesting that, just the dedication that Miles has, the energy that he has, and the focus he has to be a good quality player in the NFL. That's the type of effort it takes to really be good at this level, and Roy Williams does not have that. Miles Austin, we just need to see him put it together for another season. My only real concerns, he's got Tony Romo, and Romo's been very good to his number one receivers, whoever that might be, throughout his starting career. The one concern that I do have is the offensive line. They got rid of Flozell Adams, and Adams, he's past his prime, that's for sure. That was most evident in that game against the Minnesota Vikings in the playoffs. Yet at the same time, who's going to replace him, and how can they, making sure that he's protected? They did make a trade for Alex Barron, but that's not saying much. Barron struggled mightily at left tackle for the Rams. Maybe he can swing back to the right side and they'll rotate somebody over to the left. Barron was a decent, right tackle for the Rams in years past, so maybe that works out, or he's just going to be added depth. But anyway, it is going to be something to watch, keeping Tony Romo healthy, because if he's not, that's going to hurt that entire offense. But I do expect Miles to have another strong season. Just remember that he's only put one good season together, and that they do have some more talent there to spread the ball around.
For more fantasy football information, go to fantasy-info.com and sign up for our free e-newsletter. Good luck in your 2010 Fantasy Football League. As an added bonus, the Fantasy Info guys will include their 5 secret tips for success in fantasy